Hey everyone, happy Monday. Happy back from Thanksgiving hangover. I don't know, did Microsoft Outlook take off for Thanksgiving too? You're watching Techstrong Gang. Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel from Techstrong. Welcome to our Monday edition of Techstrong Gang. You gotta love that Thanksgiving break. Thursday off, Friday off for most of us, Saturday, Sunday. You come back today and you're rip-roaring ready to go. Is your email platform ready to go? Can you trust it? These things always happen around holidays. It's just crazy. We're going to talk about this latest outage that kind of really hit some people really hard around the Outlook, Microsoft Outlook. With our gang members, we've got some of our core gang members, the ruling circle, if you will, governing board of the gang. Let me introduce you to them. First of all, I don't see any turkey left in his beard. He's probably cleaned up since then. It's our Chief, you're Chief Technical Officer, but also VP at Futurum. I was going to say Chief Technical Advisor, but they changed nomenclatures there. Mitch Ashley. Hey, Mitchell, how are you?
Very good. Good to be here. Happy Cyber Monday. Hope your Black Friday was, you got some good deals. So,
not if you were looking for them in your Outlook mailbox, but
I think you had a problem with those verification codes.
Come on, Mitch. How much did they pay you to set up that one?
But I'm bummed.
I think Google paid them on that. Speaking of Google, in the land of Silicon Valley, there's no one bigger than our own John Swartz. Hey, John, how are you? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was fantastic. We had a bunch of dogs and grandkids running around at our house. It was fantastic.
I thought you told me you were eating dogs. I thought you were part of those folks in, Michigan or Ever State.
Don't start with that.
Yeah. I'm not from Ohio.
Ohio.
Let's stop.
That's a delicacy for Thanksgiving. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, but consequential days for big tech. Outages, government lawsuits, competition, reinvent. It's all happening.
Yeah. Always around the holidays. What could we do? Anyway, John, welcome and thanks.
Thank you.
And then joining us, I'm sure he's gotten over his first Thanksgiving back home with the family, the Vizard clan.
There you go.
Was it a Thanksgiving to remember, Mike?
It was, but I'll confess, I'm kind of sick of the leftovers already. So I'm heading to Vegas, going to WS reInvent, and away we go.
That's one of the nice things about going to someone else's house for Thanksgiving. You don't get the leftovers. Though I did buy a spiral ham and a nice big turkey breast. I got it in the freezer. We don't have leftovers. I'll make it sometime in the next week or so, because you don't get enough at just one night, one meal. You watch some football and everything else. But anyway, I'm glad you had a great Thanksgiving.
Your turkey, Alan? Did you do the spatchcock turkey? That's kind of a new thing now.
No, I didn't spatchcock the turkey. Well, it wasn't my house. I didn't cook it at all.
You didn't go.
If we're making it, I like to do a nice brine job on a turkey.
We do that too.
I'm a briner. But when it's not your turkey, it's not your brine, it's not my monkeys, it's not my circus. Kind of like email. Wow. Let's move right into that, John. I spoke to a bunch of people last week who said, please forgive me, but I can't get to my email, so I'm kind of flying blind. Is this?
Yeah,
what's going on?
As you said, if it's the holidays, there must be some sort of outage. There was a global outage that left thousands of Microsoft 365 and Teams apps users without service for a couple of days. And it was a mystery. We're getting conflicting reports about what happened. The New York Times is reporting there was some sort of faulty software update, but most other media outlets and Microsoft itself haven't given us an explanation for what happened. There was even some bizarre report of a cyber attack, although that doesn't seem to have much legs to it. Basically, Microsoft and the way it responded to this event probably created as many problems for them as the poor users who were out of luck with Outlook. Microsoft was issuing updates, constant updates, telling us they didn't know what was happening, and this sends such a kind of a frightening message. And again, there's a backdrop too of they just announced how cybersecurity is so important to them at their Ignite show, and how it's a major emphasis. Again, we don't know if it's a cyber attack, but it just kind of throws all this confusion into the whole mix. And to us, it's I think the response is as much an issue as the actual event itself, and we're still trying to sort through it.
Yeah. Mitch, I got to ask you something. Is the is the software in general that we're deploying just too complex that even a Microsoft can't figure out what's going on when something goes wrong? And have we reached some level of the weight of supporting all this stuff is just too high?
I think it's software at very large scale. That's a lot of times what the issues are here. Is it's not one problem you have to trace down and fix it. It's a cascading set of conditions. If it was a update that caused the issue, that might have resulted in 3 or 4 different side effects, unintended consequences for it. I'm just throwing out that number. I'm not saying that was the issue. But that can send you into a lot of trails, and sometimes acting too fast because there's a lot of pressure to get the service back up. You've got customers sitting there not getting email, not getting their codes on, whatever on Black Friday. If it, depending on how things last, or how long it's around, there's a lot of pressure to get things back up and running, and it's easy to deploy something that may not actually help, but make the problem worse. I think the issue here is it true Microsoft really doesn't understand or didn't understand what the problem is? Or are they just kind of like, just hold off, folks, we'll tell you when we got time to tell you. We're trying to figure out what's going on.
So what we got here is a failure to communicate.
Yes,
is that what you're telling me, Mitch?
I think that is. Yes, right off the chain gang. Yes,
yeah.
From the boss.
Well, but Mitch, you're being too kind. Your Midwestern roots are showing.
I know, it's my good old voice.
What you're really trying to say is Microsoft hiding the truth from us, and can I trust those SOBs?
That is the other side of that coin, right? There's is there anything going on here that they don't want to tell us until they can't avoid but tell us?
Yeah. Well, until they go do a mea culpa in front of Congress again. Who's the poor bastard they send every time?
Brad Smith.
Brad Smith. Poor Brad's going to have to go to Congress hat in hand and say,
I think we learned it's not the crime, it's the cover-up that always causes
that's
the
it.
issue.
That's Richard Nixon. Well, let's not get into politics. Stop.
There's also
we always do, though.
There's waiting for the news cycle to change, right? I mean, you're going through this if you're Microsoft, and you're not hoping, but you hope something else like takes over the conversation to take the pressure off of you. So, and it's with the holiday shopping and all that's very possible.
You know what a lot of people did last week? They started creating documents in a thing called Google Docs. And a lot of people started playing around with a platform that they normally would not have used. So, these things hurt because now a lot of those folks may just decide, hey, this Google thing works just fine.
Look, I've come up with a multiple choice for potential causes of this, and I'm going to open a betting thing, and just like they do in presidential politics, we'll decide what the responsible or what the reason is based upon what the betting shows. Opening up is the clear favorite at 5-4 is Elon Musk. Followed closely by Kim Jong-il and his cohorts. The Google team, right? And then let's see what the public bets on, and based upon that, we'll know how it really happened, because that's how we figure things out today, it seems.
Are you betting using crypto? Because that's
what else do you bet with? If it's not crypto, it ain't. What?
Traceability, right?
I'm betting that some guy working in a Microsoft data center halfway around the world kicked the router, and that was that.
Yeah, like it happened at our KubeCon thing. That woman walked behind the curtain and took out our power in the middle of my AWS interview.
It's the poor janitor vacuuming the floor, right?
Yeah.
What's this for?
But guys, turning a serious eye to this for a moment, a couple of things I want to mention. When we first started moving to the cloud and into these hyperscale environments, the thought was, wow, aren't you just creating a big honeypot? Right? Man, what a great, to quote the Godfather, Paulie at Vito's daughter's wedding, sto not. If this was anyone else's wedding, there must be 30 to 40 grand in that purse. That's what you got when you got these big hyperscalers. It's a honeypot. It's a too big of a target to leave alone. They're constantly going for it. Now, the counter to that argument is, yes, it is, but we also put hundreds of times the resources into protecting it, making it bulletproof, making it more scalable, making it redundant, making it not crashable than you would by yourself if you were running Exchange Server in your closet. That's the truth, right? And there's always been that. And it still is, when anytime there's a cloud outage, there's, whether it's a security incident or just pure poor software or poor updates, it would be a bitch if it was a bad update in the Windows kernel or something. I mean, I feel bad for Microsoft for a very, very millisecond, but for an Android, that's an eternity.
Well, the happiest day I've had running IT is when I didn't have to run Exchange and I handed the keys over to Microsoft.
Yeah, because Exchange is a bitch. Now, that being said, I was never a fan of using web apps for my Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I still like them downloaded and run on my machines.
Yeah, I do too.
And it's the same thing with the Google item, why I don't like Google. I don't like running stuff, that kind of stuff, as a SaaS in the
25
cloud.
browser tabs.
So, and that's a whole nother subject, the SaaS in the cloud. However, the other big issue here is crisis management. So on one hand, Microsoft's going to say, I followed the Bible. I gave them frequent updates. As we knew it, I told them. And I wasn't afraid to tell them we didn't know, but we feel your pain. Right? That's one crisis management type of strategy. As I said, some people will say, "Oh, you're full of crap. You knew it. You didn't come clean." Another strategy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you read the updates, I was going to say that's a really good point, Alan, because when you read these updates, they're essentially saying the same thing. They're just reiterating.
But they're saying, "Hey, we kept the lines open. We kept you informed, right? We were good crisis management." On the other hand, I think it was crappy crisis management, because at some point there's an argument to be made is if you got nothing to say, don't say it, or find out, give me something. Hey, we're not sure what it is, but we're rebooting everything and we're restoring from a backup and it should be up, in 24 hours and 36 hours and whatever it is. Right?
They never offered estimates of anything. So you're totally in the dark.
Right.
You have no idea.
So a lot of people just felt like, well, these constant updates, you were just teasing me. Stop teasing me.
Exactly.
So let me draw a contrast.
Sure.
How does this compare to George Kurtz, CrowdStrike, right? Who immediately, as soon as he could, realistically could, he pretty quickly got out there and mea culpa and said, this is the problem. We're working on it. We're still trying to understand this, but here's what we know so far. And wrote a full disclosure. Here's a blog article that kept getting updated with the latest of what they knew. And, they made some pretty drastic mistakes. Here you have it's kind of the clown car, right? Here's another clown, but we don't know what's in the car yet, right? What happens when everybody gets out and what was the cause? So it's to your point about crisis management, it's expectations management too, and transparency, right? It's not just sending out communications. The thing I also wonder about is if it was cyber, or how much of it was cyber, there's a 4-day disclosure requirement now with the SEC to report, a material, obviously this is a material impact from cyber. So does that sort of obfuscation of we don't know, but we'll tell you more later multiple times? I'm not saying they're hiding anything. I'm just saying just not effective communications. Does that get in the way of, well, there really was a cyber issue way back when, but they didn't tell us. So there's a lot of potentials of running afoul here.
Wait,
That's funny that you mentioned. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
You didn't read, line 497 about the user agreement that said they don't have to tell you nothing?
Well, and then we take
Was that
everything.
nothing or nothing?
Does the
And
G
an
matter?
apostrophe.
Was there a G at the end of that, or have you been in New York too long already?
No, he's an R added. R at the end. Nothing.
Nothing. I ain't telling you nothing.
We got to tell you nothing.
Nothing. I don't got to. I know my rights, copper. I don't got to tell you nothing.
Not the customers.
Nothing.
Use
Well,
guys. Use guys won't give nothing. It's nothing. You guys don't give nothing.
That's what Microsoft said during the CrowdStrike issue, right? They said nothing. They just went mum. The other thing too is, we talked about another outage recently.
But behind the scenes, John, they said, Brad, grab your hat, head to Washington.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, stop. Yeah, I know. But the other thing is, we mentioned another outage was the Starbucks mobile app that went out during the premiere of their holiday menu and the Red Cup, whatever. It was a fiasco, but to their credit, they issued some sort of update that actually gave us an idea. They knew what the problem was and they addressed it. And I think back to even Azure, there was an outage in July from Microsoft. Eventually, they found out it was a cyber attack, which kind of leaves in the back of your mind, okay, so what exactly is happening with this latest incident? It's a trust issue with them.
But again, right, there is a trust issue. And again, it's crisis management. Instead of saying, hey, we feel your pain, we know it's an outage, we're working on it, say, this is what we've ruled out. You know what? The power seems to be on. The power's working. The temperature of the servers are all within range. We're continuing down our checklist here of outage checklist, and we'll keep you posted on the progress. And then give them 3 or 4 things on the outage checklist that you checked. So at least, an empty, hollow message of, we feel your pain, we're not sure what's going on, over and over again, is worse than no message at all, is, I guess, the point I'm making from a crisis handling this.
One other comment. I feel like every time Brad goes to Washington, it's like someone else goes out to clean in the show silo. They leave the silo. They're like, okay, see you later. And they crater on the hill.
Yep. That's a tough job.
It's a bad job.
I don't even know if he needs to go to Washington, because I watched him go several times now, and it's the same speech. So they could just send a little AI avatar that says,
an agent. We call it an agent.
Agent Brad.
Hi, I'm Brad's agent.
Let's just pretend we had this meeting because we all know the outcome.
Anyway, all kidding aside, if you were one of the people out there who were affected, it's no joke to you. And we're sorry to hear it. Luckily, we here at Techstrong were not affected. Mitchell has engineered our own mail and document solution as part of our Crackerjack IT team. And they are chiseling on rocks right now, trying to write the next story for DevOps.com.
Moving that next block over next to the pyramid. We got it gone. It's coming.
Yeah, I think he just hired some guy named Gutenberg or something, but whatever.
Yeah, I'll mimeograph that and send it to you.
Yeah, mimeograph.
In the mail.
I love the smell of the mimeograph. Who remembers the mimeograph machine smell? Man,
it's a great smell.
It was probably toxic as all hell, akin to sniffing glue or something. But
that and the overhead projector on it with
I think a few billion brain cells went missing because of those.
So obviously Thanksgiving has had an effect on our productivity here, guys. Let's get back on board. Let's take a quick break. Let's take a quick break, put on our work clothes, come back, and we'll discuss our next topic, which is what's going on with the Google and DOJ conflict. Is there a conflict? You're watching Techstrong Gang.
Cloud Native Now is the web's leading resource for the growing cloud native ecosystem. CloudNativeNow.com is your destination for news, thought leadership, features, and webinars on cloud-native architecture, Kubernetes, serverless, cloud-native application development, microservices, service mesh, cloud-native security, and more. Stay on the cutting edge of modern application development at Cloud Native Now.
Hey guys, we're back, and we're talking about this Google thing and the DOJ, and I'm having a bad case of deja vu because I think I watched this drama about 2 decades ago, but John, what's going on with this whole thing? Because it sounds like, let me get this straight. We want to take a big company and take away its browser, and somehow or other that's going to make everything better. I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm confused too. This is kind of like a takeoff of the mystery of Microsoft, which you just talked about. So the Justice Department has made this request that after they beat Google in court, that they want to sell, they want Google to sell its Chrome browser and potentially its Android mobile operating system. And it is like deja vu. It goes back to the Microsoft case, which went on for years, and which eventually ended up Microsoft making some concessions, but basically being the same company. And I think we're going to see a sense of deja vu all over again with Google. The whole process, there are two timelines. There's a judge who is going to be listening to Google's counterproposal to what the government has offered. He has until April. Google has until April to file it. The judge has until August to make a decision. And then, of course, we're going to go back to court, and then we will have an escalation of things. This could go on for years. And consequently, I don't think it's going to amount to much of anything. I think there will be some sort of concession. I just don't see, here's the reason why I don't see, why would you disrupt a major company that's a major cog in the economy, especially with an incoming administration that is kind of playing nice and hard against tech? I just don't see them doing something as radical as this. And again, it's a lot of bluster, a lot of time's going to be spent, but ultimately, I think the chances of any part of Microsoft being sold off or torn off is going to be minuscule.
It's Google, not Microsoft, though, right?
I mean, Google. Yeah, Google. It's just going to be the same situation as with Microsoft 20 years earlier.
I mean, to me,
I don't get it because, I mean, wouldn't you have to go back and revisit the Microsoft agreement and be consistent? And so you're going to get them to spin off their browser too? I mean, how does that all come together in your head?
It's a non-starter. I think this whole thing is a non-starter. It's not going to go. This is not going to go nowhere. It's going to be a lot of posturing. And the weirdest thing too is that, ironically, the Trump administration, the first administration that he had his first term, that was when the Department of Justice went after Google, which set up this entire case. And now it looks as if, given the relationship, and it's kind of developing that there's this somewhat comfy relationship between the larger tech companies and the Trump administration. They're cozying up to them.
Let's be clear. It's not a somewhat comfy. It's paid with gold.
Yeah, it's
there was
interesting.
oligarch money paid there.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about this last week. It is an oligarchy, and the weird thing, there was kind of a carrot and a stick strategy, though, where there are threats, overt threats that really will not lead to anything. And so therefore you get the tech executives to cow down to you and do what you're bidding. It's like, for instance, we could even talk about the tariffs. We won't, but you talk about the tariffs, and they're going to be exemptions for tech companies, I'm sure. So here we have this whole situation where these guys are going to serve the administration in a certain way. They're going to play nice with the administration. And I think Google will be part of that. And I think this whole case is just going to go on for years, and eventually it leads to nothing.
So I've got some views on this. So first of all, let's be really clear. The only thing this administration cares about from big tech is the free speech issue, so we can turn everything into the cesspool that Twitter is. Right? They can give a flying what about whether Google monopolizes search or not, as long as there's free speech and they could put forth and spew. Number one. Number two, this is a classic example from the we're here to help people who just don't get it. Instead of making Google sell off Chrome, right? Because Google doesn't have an OS that Chrome's, well, they do, Android, but it is a little different than Windows. Why can't you just make Chrome that the first time you run it and any time you want thereafter, you could pick who the default search engine is? And if it's not Google and it's Bing or it's DuckGo or it's whatever the next search here that you want, an OpenAI search or something, and you don't use Google search. Problem solved. Problem solved. What's so hard about that? Like, what did they not think of that? Is there something I'm not seeing? right? Because if the idea is that Chrome is inflicting Google search on people, why not just disjoin the search from the browser and give people a choice of search engines, and you're done. Instead of all this, who are we going to sell Google Chrome to? The people who own TikTok.
I don't think this is behind. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Alan. We've been down this road before, and there was a whole lot of money spent for a pretty basic solution. Now we have, Edge is the solution to Chrome in this problem. What I wonder about this is the timing of it is now such that if that was the outcome, okay, just make it easy for the user to choose what they're going to use for the search engine. We're on the cusp of OpenAI and generative AI being a search solution for this. Man, some people use.
Well, no, that's why I said it. OpenAI is one of the default search.
Exactly.
One of the search choices.
And maybe opening up the browser that way, or open up the choice of the search engine within the browser. That's one of the threats of why they're holding back, to say, well, it's not Bing I'm worried about. It's OpenAI and half a dozen other.
Yeah, but isn't that a better solution than forcing them to sell Chrome altogether?
Yeah, they're not going to do that. Are they really? And, I don't think any of us believe that will happen. We don't live in an SEC world of breaking companies up. It just doesn't happen. And people proactively do set up the alphabet, companies to be able to separate.
I got 3 letters for you. ATT.
ATT. Yeah, well, when did that happen? In the 80s, right? That's how long ago that was. And we all went through that.
Hey, if anything, I think when the FTC chair, Lena Khan, gets forced out, which is probably inevitable, you're going to see all sorts of M&A activity. Big tech's going to be going for all these big deals that so far she is discouraged through her actions. So I think if anything, they're going to get bigger and fatter.
So do you think Trump and the crew will drop this case, or do you think that they will pursue it as part of their quote unquote big tech agenda? Or to Alan's point, do they just want somebody to come down to Mar-a-Lago and kiss the ring, and that's that?
It's friend or foe. Are they friend or foe? If they're friend,
exactly. Exactly. It's like the mafia. We talked about The Godfather earlier. It's the same thing. You go to kiss the ring. You make nice. You ask for some favors, and then you're on the good side until
the last time
you're not.
Google invited Trump over for Sunday dinner, even though
that is a good,
yeah. I mean, that's the world you live in, right? And that goes for whether you're a corporate executive or a foreign country. You know what I mean? If you flatter this administration, you're good. Well, flatter and support them.
Some tech companies are better at doing this than others. I think Apple is really the best. They're the model in terms of Cook's management of Trump, so to speak. He was pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Quietly,
they're
did a very good job.
Saudi-like.
Oh, and then the flip side, you have Amazon.
All right, not projecting Trump on the side of every iPhone. I mean, like the Saudis did.
But also, Alan, we talked about this in the past, but to what degree will it matter if AI is kind of the new search engine anyway? And so maybe Google's just going to say, well, over time, we may not care about the quote unquote search engine.
So first of all, Google is already doing AI search. So they're going to be a leader in that. But that's what could happen is if this thing drags on for so many years, it becomes a moot point. And that Google's domination of search is not, there was back in the day, right? Everyone thought Alta Vista was going to be a real problem.
Web crawler.
Right? And by the time they got around to doing anything, who the hell even remembered Alta Vista? So
you have a good point. Maybe this is a delay tactic to let Gemini become, effectively replace it.
Ooh, that's Machiavellian.
I know it is sort of like, intrigued.
Mm-hmm. So you just donate the browser to some sort of consortium, and then you're on your way.
Okay.
Let's think about that. Yeah.
Consortiums, a browser. You know what I think we should do, though, guys? We should start a Techstrong betting app. Yeah, Martin Logan on this.
There we go.
And for these kinds of things, we should put out solutions and set the odds and allow people to bet on it. And then we can report on the action, what the current odds are and stuff. It might be much more profitable than this writing articles and doing videos.
How much we make on every bet? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the house always wins.
Absolutely. 00.
Something to think about. Something to think about for the degenerate gamblers out there who want to bet on tech stories. I'm sorry I even said this out loud. Someone's going to steal my friggin' idea.
It's already, AI is already writing the app. We're going to feed this into AI and write the app.
All right. Let's take a break. We're here on Techstrong Gang. It's after Thanksgiving. We're officially in the holiday season, though, guys. And we're at AWS reInvent this week. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
DevOps.com is the #1 online destination for DevOps education and community building. DevOps.com covers all aspects of DevOps, including DevOps best practices and tools, DevOps culture, DevSecOps, business impact, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and more. DevOps.com has the largest collection of original DevOps content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.devops.com to learn more. DevOps.com, where the world meets DevOps.
All right, folks, we're back. And just in case, I want to clear one small thing up. DraftKings is not about to buy Techstrong, okay? So there we go.
That we know.
They better not steal my idea.
But on the betting front, we are all going to Las Vegas, and AWS is going to be there. And Smart Money says AWS is up to something with Gen AI, and they've kind of tipped their hand a little bit in the sense that they are now recently partnered with both Datadog and Wiz to add plugins to their Amazon Q developer platform, which is a Gen AI platform for managing operations and DevOps workflows. It's kind of a cousin to Amazon Q Business, which is their larger business workflow AI platform, but it's the same idea. Mitch, do you think we're going to see a lot more of these plugins? And does this become one of the dominant platforms for managing workflows, at least in an Amazon environment?
I think you'll hear about AI everywhere, right? Every announcement or every 4 out of 5 announcement will have AI in it. I think we're going to hear a lot more about Developer Q. That's what you were referring to with the plugins to talk to Datadog and Wiz. And, we're in the era of people realize that you're not going to stay in a self-contained world of Amazon or Azure or Microsoft or whatever cloud, Oracle, et cetera, Google, is that data lives in multiple places. There's services in other clouds. And part of your partner market system is to be able to interconnect you because those apps are also running in those clouds. So I think we're going to see a lot of focus around AI-generated AI workflows for developing software, testing software. I'm not disclosing anything I know ahead of time. So don't take it that way. But I think my point being, I think we're going to see more focusing on the development of software, not just AI capabilities in software.
Fair. I don't disagree with that one, Mitch. It's probably even odds.
Did you check our betting app? How are we doing?
No, but I'm thinking about, my mind's racing as we're doing this. I got an idea. We'll talk afterwards.
This is happening. Okay. Oh my God.
Your mind's always racing, Alan.
Yeah, I know, but
Alan, this week you're going to be over at the Win doing some interviews. So what's going on?
Yes, we will be live at AWS. We'll actually be broadcasting the entire Tuesday through Thursday there. Some will be live interviews going on right there. Some may be some AWS relevant interviews we've done in the past, but good content. So if you want to keep up on what's going on in AWS, do log in here at Techstrong TV. Mitch, Mike, you'll both be there. I'm sure maybe we could stop in and do some updates and recaps as well on a daily basis if you're not too busy at the tables and stuff like that. I know we go for the keynotes, but
got to fund our betting app somehow.
yeah, we got to fund this baby somehow. Exactly. But anyway,
I'm looking forward to that meeting with the regulators as this whole thing comes together.
well, that's why we got to get Martin Logan. So Martin Logan is one of my partners in media ops, and Martin is actually the CTO, CPO for Caesars Entertainment. He actually built their whole online gaming infrastructure. Well, he didn't single-hand. He runs the team that built it. But he'd be a great guy to do this.
He would.
So the plan's falling into place.
Right
You got the personnel. You got
Just
the
like
idea.
pulling
So
the
the back of the
strings.
napkin, we do it on
Pulling
Techstrong
the
Gang.
strings. Yeah.
There's going to have to be an even bigger wall between editorial and the rest of the gambling business, though. Otherwise, we'll be accused of putting our fingers on the scale to tip the odds one way or the other.
Well, we'll just play some Pink Floyd music on the wall. I don't know. But no, it's going to be a great reinvent. They're expecting 60, 65,000 people. The whole strip is taken up with it. They just had the F1 event there. The Eagles are playing at the Sphere. There's a lot going on in Vegas. It's going to be a busy, busy week.
Something for everybody.
Here's what I'm going to be keeping my eyes on: the parties. The extravagance of tech parties are directly tied into how the economy, or how they feel about the economy going forward, right? So you want to talk about bets and reading tea leaves and stuff like that. Keep your eye on the parties. It's a good indicator.
Makes sense to me.
I have nothing else. What about you guys?
Well, yeah, just one thing on this, AWS has been the dominant cloud provider since the beginning of this, maybe a decade ago. Do you think that is starting to shift, though? And, are we seeing more of not just Microsoft and Google, but all these other third-party providers, Oracle, and even small independents that seem to be gaining more traction? I don't know if you're seeing it, but I feel it.
I think you got a balloon that's still being blown up. And so you have other people on the surface of that balloon, perhaps. But when you look at the landmass that AWS takes up on that balloon, it's at least constant, if not growing. It's just a bigger balloon.
Part of it is, where do you see the growth coming from? Because of its, people modernizing applications, enterprises. They're probably moving it to either Google or Azure, to AWS or Azure, possibly Google.
Yeah.
We're not in the exuberant startup phase. It's kind of which is where AWS has had a heyday, for their
I was just going to say that, Mitch. I think what we really are seeing is the full-on transition from infrastructure as a service to whatever platform as a service is today, and SaaS as a service, software as a service is kind of as a service to begin with. So, but I think AWS was born clearly as an infrastructure as a service play, and they clearly now are moving into platform as a service, applications as a service, or application building blocks as a service, if you will. So I think that's the big thing there. And that's been going on. It's not from this year only.
And don't forget Alibaba. There's some other big clouds out there too, right?
You really want to be on a Chinese cloud with the present administration here in the U.S.?
Well, let's see how the tariffs go. We'll see how that works out.
So if you talk to the DevOps folks over at AWS, they will tell you that, from their point of view, they are the DevOps team for all these application developers out there. So
I think they're more platform engineers.
Right. Fair enough.
Well, that's where DevOps, functions are shifting to. Who's doing the DevOps tool set?
John?
Yeah, I was going to throw something out. So I reached out to Daniel Newman from Futurum Group is going to be there as well, and he mentioned to me something that bears watching. It's a theme he's been looking at, and it's starting to come up more and more in research reports and in quarterly earnings. This idea of Amazon making this transition from being a customer of NVIDIA to eventually becoming a competitor. And he was pointing to the Amazon's $8 billion partnership with Anthropic. So they basically doubled their investment in that company. And there was a Bloomberg report that says that that partnership could advance Amazon's Trainium hardware and software tools enough for them to cut into NVIDIA's stranglehold on the AI chip market.
Microsoft's doing the same thing, right? Microsoft Silicon and their software behind it. Google's going to do it too. Look, that's how the tech world works. Someone always wants your cheese. NVIDIA's got a big chunk of cheese right now.
Yeah, right. And these guys are major customers. We're talking tens of billions of dollars a year that they are spending with NVIDIA, and that's going to eventually change. And this is part of the storyline. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but
it's going to take time. But this is why, like the Google story we covered earlier today, oftentimes by the time the government and we get through all the appeals and the whole rigmarole, the market takes care of itself. The market's an amazing thing in terms of as long as things are not so monopolistic that it's impossible, the market will kind of balance itself because the technology changes so quick that it's game changing.
Right. That's like even going back to Microsoft, the whole case of the government of Internet Explorer versus Netscape. And then from there, what happens? Google emerges. I mean, the market evolves, and this market evolves so fast that we don't know where it'll be in a couple of years.
There was an article, and I think it was in Bloomberg I think it was last week, talking about, they called it Amazon's moonshot plan to rival NVIDIA in the chip market. So it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I think you're spot on, John.
So Alan, I just want to point out one little small thing. I think there is a gambling app for tech already. I think it's called the Stock Exchange.
Yeah, no, but you're right. You're right. No, but I was going to get a little more granular. Right? Yeah. So should we start another stock exchange?
I don't know. I guess, you could think that the stock exchange is going to become more like football and baseball, where you're kind of betting on what will happen in a particular inning. So maybe we are betting on.
Some will say it already is.
Yeah, it already is. I mean, in a sense, that was what we remember. We were talking about the Dallas Cowboys and the CIO that we did that story about him. He said that's the killer app, betting in real time on site at a game or even
that's
when
what
watching.
I'm thinking.
So here's the killer app, Alan. The ticker tape, the ticker meter. The old
Mitch.
Am I dating myself?
Never tell anyone outside the family what you're thinking.
Oh, okay.
Let's discuss this, and then we'll come back.
Okay. I know where the source is I know where the data for this comes from. So, okay.
We're going to discuss it. Stay tuned. It could be Techstrong Part 2. Anyway, hey, let's wrap up Techstrong Gang. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Glad you all enjoyed Thanksgiving. We hope you've enjoyed your long holiday weekend. If you took it, of course, if you're not in the U.S. or area, you may think we're just spouting off and rubbing it in. But anyway, we will be back tomorrow from Vegas for Amazon's reInvent. Until then, this is Alan Schimmel for Techstrong Gang, everyone. Have a great day.